Just all cut out from a template. It was an old steel template, and been using these for years. And this is kind of full length. When you bend it, then it will actually be straight on the foot. So we'll shape one of those. 9 times out of 10, I'll cut it down. I don't quite need that full length, so I'll cut it to the second hole here, and then clean it up. For most applications dorsally, I think these work fairly well. I've done some fabrics over the years, but these are typically what I reach for. And there are certain instances where I'll use these on quarter cracks on the lateral medial aspect of the foot too. And what I like about it is I can thin these down quite a bit and then kind of leapfrog them. So as it starts to grow down, if that wall starts to deteriorate or I'm having some sort of issue, I can pop it off and just put it back up, and I still have access for drainage or that kind of stuff above and below it. I will still sometimes reach for like Cobra socks or one of the other fabric materials for crack repair as well. One of the things that is handy for shaping the bridge at the horse to make those surfaces is more or less this is a little Hardy tool. It came out of Japan. It's kind of locked in because it's cold, but it's just a Hardy tool, but it makes a nice little anvil. So I'll take this to the horse, or Ben will, and we'll just set it on the ground, and then we'll just shape it and use it as use a cross beam and bridge. So on rubber it tends to bounce a little bit, but in a barn aisle on asphalt, you can just shape it however you want to. And this is a diagonal cross beam, so I've got a little bit of a learning curve on where the belly of it is. But you can kind of see how it straightens out once you start getting that curve to it. So on your dorsal wall cracks, the foot caves in. So what you're trying to do with your bridge or your appliance is actually keep the foot apart under load. And on your quarters, they tend to kind of pull away. So for those, we're looking to compress them, whereas the dorsal ones we're wanting to offload or kind of keep open. So how we set those, if it's unstable and it's truly moving, then I'm going to put that foot up on a hoof stand and put everything on it with it off the ground so it's in its open position. I think we've all seen those cracks where you see a big V at the top and everything's kind of just caving in and then it's growing down, but you've got a defect in your wall thickness, and it's going to be an easy spot for that sort of movement to create a fissure down the road. So that's just something to keep in mind. And then my quarter cracks, I'll usually wrap the foot and then set them on the ground and have those set under load. The thing about this little tool is that I don't have to keep running back to the truck to shape it. I can do this right at the horse. Pretty close there, just need to open it just a touch. Okay. All right, so on dorsal cracks, they usually sit pretty flat and nice. But if I'm gonna come around here to the side of the foot, because the heel is always at a steeper angle than the toe quarter, then I'll get a pair of pliers and I'll just put a little twist in it. So you can have it to where you won't rock it at all because it follows that curvature of the foot. And I do recommend that you do that. So, but we're just going to do one up here like that. This is going to be glued, so we're going to freshen this surface with the grinder. I do recommend that you use latex gloves or really try to keep your fingers off of your gluing surface if you can. And it's going to get hot, so most of the time I'll have like a little pair of welding gloves that I keep there by my grinder on the truck. I did, yeah. And then, so aluminum oxidizes in about 20 minutes. So you can freshen this, but you need to put it on within 20 minutes or that oxide layer is going to come back and your bond's not going to be as strong. And I do kind of recommend always trying to freshen up an aluminum surface before gluing, just to get those sort of micro abrasions for the glue to go in and bond to. Yes, sir.
What terms were they using? Aluminum crack packs or Cobra socks?
A little bit depends on sort of how unstable it is. A lot of times I reach for aluminum probably 8 out of 10 times. I like it because it can flex just a little bit, but it's not going to allow things to shear, right? So on those quarter cracks, I don't mind that because the hoof wall, you know, and I can thin this out a bit more than where it is here at 3/16. Maybe I take it down to an 1/8, so it's got just a little bit of movement. But that's usually the case. Cover socks is I'm going to come in with something, maybe I'm trying to protect something more broadly, where this is kind of finite. I hope this isn't too loud with the grinder going into the mic. So I like to sort of chamfer my edges, make everything a bit of a radius if I can, so it's just less of a stress riser for fractures to occur at the glue interface. And I do sort of prep everything. If I'm wearing latex gloves, then I can comfortably handle this any way that I want. If I didn't have gloves on, then I typically try to hold it sort of on edge like this, and then I can go in and, but you know, mainly I'm trying to keep away from this surface and also this inner edge there. So Ben came over and sanded our foot. So we used the FPD hoof buffer here and try to take it down. You know, if there's hoof dressing, any of those sort of things, then we need to get that off of the foot. You don't have to go crazy, but I do want to establish a nice clean margin. And then lastly, I want to come back. You know, I did grind it, so maybe I affected my fit just a little bit, so you can see that I'm rocking just a touch. So I'm going to come in, and it's okay to make just a little adjustment if I need to. Something like that. And now it feels nice and solid. It's a little bit sort of crooked, so I could grab my pliers or not using the diagonal cross peen, I could have hit it just a little bit more squarely, but it might be ugly as a mud fence, but it's still going to be effective, so I'm going to go ahead and put it on that way. Glue that I put on, and I'm not shy with how much I'm using, so on these little paper cups that I use, I just make a pyramid until it reaches the edge of the cup, and that's typically how much I'm using for you know, 1 to 2 ounces of glue, something like that. Glue gun over here. So Ben's going to put just a little tape around the coronary band itself. You don't have to have vet wrap on it or anything. This is more or less just to keep any glue that kind of splashes up, or you know, like an errant hand gesture that ends up getting up there. So this glue is pretty cold. It was in my truck overnight, and then I took it up top with me during the lecture because it's a little bit warmer up there, but you know, this is going to take a bit to set. One of the tricks that Ben and I use on our truck, I have a microwave in my truck, and a lot of barns do too, but this is a pair of my jeans that I just put deer corn in and made like a hot bag. So I can put this in the microwave for about 5 minutes. When it's a little bit warmer, it's about 3.5, or that, or my microwave's wearing out. But this gets nice and hot, and it helps the glue set for things like this. It helps direct glues, Sigafus, whatever. That's been a huge time saver for me in the wintertime. I couldn't get along without it on some days. Okay, so, and you can put a drain in here. We use the little foam drains that you can pull out after the fact. They don't stick to the glue, and they're pretty handy. But there are other drains that you can make. You can twist shoelace material that's waxed or whatever it is that you want to do. And I do kind of make an effort to push this glue into the hoof wall a bit, just to push it into those little micro abrasions that I was talking about. Oh, this has a drain on it, so. Ben knows what I wanted more than I did. All right, so we just push that on. With that drain, most of the time we would have debrided that away and actually made that depth deeper so it wouldn't rock on top of it. But in this case, we didn't do that, so it's just on surface level. And that's okay. You just have to keep in mind when you do that that you have enough glue around the edges so it actually pushes out your little holes and comes around all the edges. And then you can gently kind of push those away from the top. And I usually just grab the edge and actually go above and below where my drain is, just so it's easier to get out. Now you can do one of two things. So you can actually take this foot, turn it, and then just put like a really loose wrap with this U-line wrap that we have. Or you can also just make like a little sheet and put it on there. You're more or less just trying to cover it, and then you can use your hand for warmth that way, or you can set that heat bag on top of it as well.
That horse thing is good.
I know, doesn't he? You know, and that's a really valid point though. So on a horse that I can't get to stand up on a stand this long, then I may just have to make a sacrifice and do it with him standing on the ground, and hopefully he's not jittering around a whole lot. But you know, that's always something to think about, is what the horse is going to let you do. So, all right, and so that's going to take a bit to set. We won't fool with it. We'll just kind of let it do its thing.